that new time of moderation, Lawrence, has already begun.
It's a nice word, regime. What I'm wondering about in Arkansas is how is the Blanche Lincoln outcome different from what we've been talking about as Republican right-wing purging of their party?
Interrupting you to declare a winner in West Virginia, Governor Joe Manchin, according to NBC News, is the projected victor in a very important, pivotal Senate race for the Democrats. Joe Manchin, who tacked right through much of the campaign against a lot of money spent on behalf of and by his Republican opponent, John Racy, who received in grants, his companies received in grants from the state of West Virginia in the last 10 years and contracts, $32 million just from the state of West Virginia. That's how healed he was in this. We'll take over that seat in West Virginia. It remains in Democratic hands, as you see the swing of 2 in the Senate, having the results that we have so far, principally, again, Indiana, the first of those tonight. All right, where we were now.
Very hard for them to take the Senate now.
Yeah,
very hard. They have to sweep now everything we haven't announced yet. And I think Manchin is an example. We all know about the issues he had to compromise with. We know what he had to do to get reelected or get elected. But there is something to be said for political talent and winning elections. In a night that they're not going to have many winners. I think Manchin will be one of the Democratic stars coming out of it tonight. West Virginia will be very important in the next presidential election. Bill Clinton has always done well there. Barack Obama has done nothing there. They got to stop giving up states permanently. They got to stop fighting for them.
It should be noted, though, John Racy was a stupendous candidate. I mean, John Racy was in Christine O'Donnell, Joe Miller territory in terms of his sheer...
Oh, stupendous bad.
Stupendously entertaining, and I think bad. I mean, this is the guy who said that he pretended that Stephen Chu, the Energy Secretary's name, was Dr. Chow Mein. This is the guy who's not only lived in Florida, but whose wife lost her West Virginia voter registration because they lived in Florida. The guy who had his driveway paved in pink marble, who talked about earning his money, earning his money the old-fashioned way by inheriting it, and he wasn't joking. He didn't get that. People usually say that as a joke. I mean, this guy said that he wanted to go back to 19th century labor laws.
In West Virginia. Minimum wage in West Virginia, which is not a winning platform.
Well, that's not a win. So he was a terrible candidate. Yeah. Nonetheless, it was a race. You know, I mean, even with that, it was a race. And Manchin, one of his problems was he had a 70% approval rating as governor. That was actually a problem for him. That people thought he was such a good governor. That Racy's best argument was, well, if you like him so much as governor, just keep him as governor, and I'll go and deal with evil Washington.
So, a tough race for a Democrat to hold on to a seat that the Democrats had held for 50 years. He ran, by the way, to the right of every Democrat in the Senate. He ran way to the right of Ben Nelson in order to win that seat.
Yeah, he did.
But again, politics, you know, if the Democrats were willing to boot Ted Kennedy's seat, which they did boot up there, because they didn't take it seriously. It is a profession, politics, and at some point you got to wake up and win. And at least they won West Virginia tonight. And they got Blumenthal in there with all his problems, although I think Dick Blumenthal has got to make a statement at some point about his record of service or non-service in the war in Vietnam. Well, and get that straight and get it behind him as soon as possible.
He better be the senator from IAVA, from Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, once he gets in there, if he wants to make it right by Democrats.
And what would that be?
That would be doing everything right by Democrats. We need a leader in the Senate right now on veterans issues. We've got 2 million people coming out of these decade-long wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, and we're going to need not just people going along with the Democratic agenda on veterans issues. We're going to need hardcore leadership. And Blumenthal, this is a great step for him, great place for him to step in.
Let me bring Ed Schultz back in from Las Vegas for a question that mixes together West Virginia and Connecticut and Indiana. Why was Indiana, of those 3, different, Ed, in the sense that, all right, there was a brutal primary, but the brutal primary was because a Democratic senator stood up as hard as she could against the Democratic primary effort at the beginning of this year to get health reform passed. Was that the distinguishing thing? Why ultimately Arkansas was not salvageable, and to whatever degree West Virginia was salvageable?
Well, I think there's no question that the primary hurt Blanche Lincoln. She had a motivated liberal base against her that poured a lot of money into Bill Halter's campaign. They did a lot of boots on the ground. You had Democrats working against a Democrat. You had liberals working against a Democrat that thought that she didn't do a very good job on health care and fought it all the way. And they were mad at her. And I was down there for the primary night, and this was one that we knew was going to have a tidal wave in aftermath of not being good and having a good outcome. And Bozeman didn't say anything controversial. Bozeman didn't go out and get into the Tea Party crowd. Bozeman just played to his good old boy sense of small town Arkansas, connected, he's trusted, and she really went up against the perfect storm. She went up against the liberal base, and she went up against the well-known in Arkansas. Now, as far as Indiana is concerned, no primary there. I mean, heck, that's the first time a Democratic president has taken that, presidential election in that state since what, back in the 60s? So the different dynamics are playing out there. Now, on a lighter note, as far as Mr. Racy is concerned in West Virginia, Rush Limbaugh did a big thing on his radio show about how well he knew this guy. In fact, they even have a locker room next to each other down at the golf club there in Florida.
That helped.
So that didn't help too much. Stay away from Rush if you want to get into the Senate.
Ed, it's Lawrence O'Donnell. I want to ask you more about Blanche Lincoln. In retrospect, does it look wise to have challenged Blanche Lincoln in a primary and weakened her, if that's what happened, given that she, in fact, did not fight health care all the way. She was a member of the Senate Finance Committee. She voted for the Senate Finance Committee bill. She was one of the pro-choice votes in the Senate Finance Committee, where not all Democrats voted for the pro-choice components of that health care bill. She, in fact, helped it get out onto the Senate floor. She, in fact, helped it pass on the Senate floor. She did all that, and it was judged not enough by liberals who wanted to take her out in the primary. They failed. They left a wounded nominee. Now, are those liberals who did that happy that they did that? And are they, at the same time, cheering the election of a much more conservative Democrat from West Virginia to the Senate that we've seen tonight?
Yeah. All of the things you say, Lawrence, are spot on, but the fact is it was the public option. She did not support that.
Neither did
that
Barack
was the trigger
Obama.
for that's true. That's very true. But that was the point of contention. The liberal base, the PCCC, and some other lefty organizations out there were upset about the fact, number one, the president didn't go on the stump and fight for the public option, that a deal was cut. Blanche Lincoln was part of that deal, not to advocate for the public option, and it was that issue. Now, all the things you're saying are correct, but she didn't go far enough. The other thing that the liberal base was very excited about was that Bill Halter, at the time, just before the primary, was polling better against the Arkansas congressman than was Blanche Lincoln. They were making the case they had a better chance to win this seat than if they had gone with Blanche Lincoln. So those two things, the polling and also the public option. The public option is going to come back and sting, I think, a lot of people when it comes to when this night is over.
Do you expect this same liberal activity that took place against Blanche Lincoln to be there 6 years from now to try to defeat Manchin in a primary in West Virginia? Because he's going to be far to the right of Blanche Lincoln in the Senate.
Well, I think that health care is not going to be the divide in the road that it was in the past, Lawrence. It's going to be the Supreme Court ruling on the money going from the corporations unlimited to candidates. The Democrats are going to have to unite, and the Democrats are going to have to take a strong stand, shoulder to shoulder, on dealing with this. This is the next huge issue if they maintain the majority in the House and in the Senate. And so your question about it being the dividing mark later on, politics changes so much. 2 years is an eternity, but I would venture to say that it won't be the divide in the road that it was in the past, because I think a lot of lefties are going to get upset if Mitch McConnell and John Boehner get their way of not compromising on anything, making President Obama the target in 2012, and repealing health care. That could be a real help to the Democrats.
All right, Ed Schultz, thank you kindly. And consider this, Lawrence, the prospect that the world of just in Arkansas changed so abruptly with the advent of the Tea Party and the Republican resurgence of the last year. Between that preparations for the primary in Arkansas and the preparations for the general, one could almost see if that Tea Party thing had been more evident earlier, the unions and everyone else might have left her alone.
Right.
That's it. I mean, so that's.
But we may have elected in West Virginia a vote in favor of repealing the Obama health care bill, which Blanche Lincoln enabled to be legislated.
Right. See that, and we'll see on that. In fact, let's discuss that with our next guest. Still ahead, the AFL-CIO Richard Trumka. Also, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, who would welcome that vote. And we await poll closings at the top of the hour. Big races, Colorado, Wisconsin. Stand by.
Ask
Buy one, get 5 free at Joseph A. Bank. Just buy one suit, get a second suit, plus 2 dress shirts and 2 silk ties free. That's any suit in the store. Buy one and your second suit is free. Plus 2 dress shirts and 2 silk ties. Absolutely free at Joseph A. Bank.
1, 2, boom! Woo! 1, 2.
Hello, Hong Kong. Thank you for joining us and
working together in all kinds of ways. Together, we are the Human Network. Cisco.
Wherever you find people who need raw materials delivered and finished goods shipped. Wherever you find people who need to get things there on time and from factory to store. Wherever you find business, you'll find us.
Your favorite food's fighting you? Fight back fast with Tums. Calcium-rich Tums goes to work in seconds. Nothing works faster.
Tums.
This Friday.
I don't want to be the bad guy.
Are we allowed to switch sides?
Get ready for the superhero movie.
Oh, yeah.
That makes no apologies.
I am sorry.
Not buying it.
DreamWorks Megamind in 3D. Rated PG.
will women switch to new Caltrate soft chews because they have 20% more calcium per chew than Viactive? Or for the delicious flavors like chocolate truffle and vanilla cream? Hard to say, really. New Caltrate soft chews. We put the yum in calcium.
Here's the truth. At Allstate, safe drivers can save 45% or more on car insurance. Protect your home with Allstate, too, and you can save an extra 10%. Dollar for dollar, nobody protects you like Allstate.
At GE Capital, we're out there every day with clients like JetBlue, financing their fleet, sharing our expertise, and working with people who are changing the face of business in America. After 25 years in the aviation business, I kind of feel like if you're not having fun at what you do, then you've got the wrong job.
My landing was better than yours.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Was not.
Yes, it was. What do you think? Take one of the big ones out?
Nah.
Luke Russert's over at the Republican National Committee headquarters with Michael Steele, the chairman of the party. Luke, take it away.
Chris, I'm here with RNC Chairman Michael Steele. And Mr. Steele, how are you feeling so far this night at around 8:30 p.m.?
Very good. I mean, you know, the races are starting to come in, and we're getting a sense of where the country's headed right now. As we've always known, the Senate was going to be a tough haul for us because of just the sheer numbers and the geographic regions you got to cover across the country. But the House, it looks like it's going to be a very strong night. We're very excited about that. State legislative races, which we've also focused on at the Republican Committee, are going to be a very important watch for us as well, because that gets into redistricting for next year and beyond, and who controls that process along with the governor. So it's going to hopefully be a good night.
Do you see the tide that's going in the GOP favor tonight as a vote for the GOP or a vote against the Obama administration?
You know, I don't see it as so much one or the other. What I think is happening after spending the 6 weeks on the road across America, the American people are saying very clearly, we're going to make up our minds as to who we want in leadership, and we're going to send the message to both parties, quite frankly. It's time for you to pay attention to us. It's time for you to take seriously our agenda, and it's time for you to start doing the people's business in Washington and the state capitals. So I think tonight, while we will definitely be a beneficiary of the voters' intent to make a change, we still have to own up to that, and we still have to work to keep that support and that faith that they're putting in us tonight as we go into 2011.
If there's a mandate that you walk away from tonight, what is that?
Pay attention. Pay attention. If you